Get a life before you get a wife. That's something that I said 4 or 5 years ago in a YouTube video, and I was thinking about it this week. I think it still holds some weight, and I want to explain and expound on it in this video. If you're new to this channel, welcome to Men on Mission. My name is Isaac, and this is a place for the brotherhood to be strengthened, to lead, and to love. If that's something that you want to get involved in, if you want the weekly videos, then subscribe because I'm putting them out all the time. Now, let's dive into our topic at hand, pursuing the mission before you pursue a woman. This might hit you in a weird way where you're like, I'm not sure if that's what you should be doing, or maybe that's not how I did it, or maybe you're totally on board with what I have to say, or maybe you're just a little bit confused. So either way, let's dive in. I want to ask you a question though. When was your first crush? When was your first crush? Maybe you think back, and for me, I was probably like 8 years old. Maybe I wasn't that young. Maybe I was younger. I'm not even sure. But for guys, it's like it happens pretty young for most guys. And then from there, if you're in a culture that everyone's kind of dating in young, then you follow along. And it's not till maybe mid-teens, late teens, after you graduate, where you begin to take your faith seriously, or your life seriously, or your vision for the future and your goals and just all that encapsulates seriously. But you've already been in the dating game for a long time, in the romance space, but it's just now that you're getting into the mission. So what is the mission though, before we continue? What is the mission? The first and foremost, our mission is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. That's from the Westminster Confession of Faith. And connected to that, I believe, is making disciples. So that's one of our primary callings, if not our primary calling, is to glorify God and make disciples of all the nations. And then on that is working hardly for the glory of God in whatever we're doing. So I look at those ideas as the big heading, and underneath those are other goals and other missions that we should have as men. And here I'm just going to include a few that you should keep in your mind. So financial independence, especially as a young man. This is a goal that we should be striving towards, a mission, right? Financial independence. We got spiritual development. Spiritual development is, in my opinion, the most important, right? And physical growth, okay? So physical, so how are you growing physically in terms of your cardio, your strength? Are you really utilizing the vessel that God has given you? And the fourth is relational roots. Are you making those connections? Are you networking? Are you making those friends that are going to be so important and crucial in this time in your life? Are you surrounding yourself with good company? So those are just four things that popped into the top of my head. But those are the things that I think as men, we should be focusing on before we even contemplate pursuing a woman or getting into the dating scene. This is why I really don't recommend like 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds to date anybody, even 17-year-olds. It's like, really, like, you're going to put all that time and attention into dating somebody. I recognize some 18-year-olds get married, and like, especially growing up in the homeschool community, that does happen. But for the most part, I believe that us as men, we should be focusing on the mission. So what is the mission? Making disciples, and then looking at those other kind of four categories, and you can add more as well. They're not extensive, and making sure that you have your foundation in check. Too many guys are trying to build a household, build a family on a foundation that isn't there. And it's not about perfection, right? Guys, I'm not trying to say you got to become this perfect man before you even think about pursuing a woman or anything like that, but you shouldn't see key flaws in your life, like key things, like let's say you have an addiction to pornography. This is not something that you want to bring a woman into, right? You don't want to subject herself to that pain and that agony of you trying to work through that. And maybe you think, oh, this is my solution. If I bring a woman into this, then I'll be cured. That's going to be disastrous. So you need to be honest about looking at your life and saying, what are the key areas that I really need to improve on before I even think about pursuing a woman? And I recognize, man, it's a lot of it is in God's timing. You don't know when He's going to bring that person into your space, and you're going to have that opportunity to pursue her. You don't know that, but you can prepare. But beyond that, it's not just about preparing for marriage, it's preparing for war, preparing for spiritual war, a lifetime of mission work. If you don't have that mission mindset, that goal mindset of progressing spiritually, of making disciples, of growing personally, if you don't have this mission mindset, working towards that goal of glorifying God, if that's not there before marriage, then it won't be there after marriage. And that's why I just so fervently encourage you guys to get that foundation secure. Look, it's not going to be a perfect foundation, but it needs to be a foundation that's anchored in Christ, that is growing and that is strengthening each and every day, so that when that time comes, when you do bring a woman into that situation, it's not going to be a toxic environment. It's not going to be a faulty foundation. It's not going to be crumbling and cracking. It's not going to be just a kind of a mound of sand that just really hasn't solidified. No, it's going to be something that's solid, that you can build a house and a home on top of. And that's the goal. That's why I just really encourage you guys, don't jump into something too quickly, especially when you have yet to form spiritually, when you really take your faith seriously, when you haven't really taken your life seriously. The calling for you right now, if you're a single young man, is to embrace radical responsibility. This idea of everything that is in your control, you're going to be responsible for. So your diet, your spiritual disciplines, all the things that are going on that you have control over, you're going to take radical responsibility and you're going to utilize it and steward those things that God has given you for the glory of God. And that's where you begin. It's not with saying, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of have fun, or I'm going to date around just because it feels good. No, because I know if I delay gratification, right, I focus on building that foundation, ultimately, there's going to be so much more fruit that's going to come out of it. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. Your relationship is going to be perfect. But there's going to be so much more stability and fruit that can come out of that when you have that foundation of Christ, of building and stewarding what he has given you in the here and now, and not wasting time frivolously kind of going after things that aren't going to last. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you have thoughts about this topic, let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, keep pursuing the mission.